Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. This is Roger H3, and today we are going to talk about how to get value on DPS. In the current state of Overwatch, that people believe DPS are weak or provide low value. If you guys are new to the channel, please make sure you subscribe to help me out as I continue to grow. And if you enjoy the video and the content, please make sure you drop a like. But let's go ahead and get right into it. So I'm going to try to make this video a little bit more candid and just be honest with you all about how I think you should be playing DPS and how you can climb. I have played in pretty much every rank below Masters, so I've played Bronze, Silver, Gold, Plat, and Diamond. And additionally, obviously, my goal is to make it to Masters and maybe one day GM as well. But I'm just taking it one step at a time, as obviously you have to climb the stairs. You can't just jump to the top. Which honestly kind of leads me to my first tip for you all, and something to keep in mind. You're not going to get better at DPS overnight, and you're not going to go from feeling like you make no impact to the game to feeling like you're a game changer within a few games. Just have the expectation that you're going to have to grind the game, you're going to have to grind Overwatch, you're going to have to grind the ranks. You're not going to find yourself going undefeated every single card, or each time you come in and sit down and play, you're not going to find that you're going 10-0 every time you play 10 games. It takes time to get better, and it takes time to climb the ranks. So be patient with yourself and be patient with your learning, but also make sure you're trying to improve each and every single game you play. And that goes for DPS as well as any other role or any other thing in the game as well. So let's go ahead and get right into talking about how you can actually make a bigger impact as DPS, how you can improve as DPS, and different things you should be looking at, trying to get better at, angles you should take, and things of that nature. Now, I'm going to try to hit some of these tips pretty quick. I'm not going to go super in depth. If you guys really like these tips or you really enjoy this video, please make sure you drop a like once again and let me know. I can go ahead and make a more in-depth guide on this information, but like I said, let's go ahead and roll into it. So at a basic level, and the most obvious thing that I think people should know is what each character does and what the character does that you're actually playing. You should know your character's strengths, your character's weaknesses, and the best range that your character plays at, as well as what each support on the other team, each DPS on the other team, and each tank on the other team is both good and bad at. Now, I know this may seem like a lot to new people or people who don't play Overwatch a lot, but I 100% guarantee once you begin to understand what each character does to a better extent, you will become a better player in Overwatch, especially as a DPS. I think one thing that a lot of DPSs are doing a really bad job at right now is killing supports. And the number one thing to eliminating supports and reducing their impact in the game is understanding how elusive they are and what cooldowns they have. And once you understand that and you understand how to bait those out or take different off angles to eliminate them and reduce their impact once again, then you have the ability to make a larger impact on the game than what you do if you just sit there and only shoot at the tank and nothing else. And with this being said, that actually leads me into two different tips here. The first one being, there is a time and a place where you want to focus a tank and you want to take the tank out, and there is a time and a place where you do not want to focus a tank and you want to go for squishies, which are other DPS or other supports on the other team. So I guess this is a long-winded way of saying you need to work on target priority. You need to make sure that you are taking different off angles, you are applying pressure to the other team's backline, which forces their tank to have low heals, forces their tank to back up, or forces their tank to be overextended and get an easy elimination for your team. Now, the hard part to this is you have to sit there and think about how can you do this without being overextended yourself? Well, one key answer to this and one key thing to this is, where is your team currently positioned? Where is the other team currently positioned? Where can you go that they are not going to expect you to come from that angle and do damage? And if they are to turn and all focus you, do you have a way to get out? Or is it worth taking that death in order for your team to create the extra space? These are all things you really need to think about as a DPS, because in most cases, you don't want to trade your life for the thought that maybe your team will cover some ground unless you're certain that the people you're playing with is going to be able to follow up on what you just did. Now, as we touched all these points, obviously, as you can tell, there's a lot of different variables and a lot of different things you have to think about when you're playing DPS, especially if you want to make a large impact and play better than what may be average in your current rank. In addition to talking about positioning in terms of your team and the other team, you also want to position based off of the other team's effective range, not just your own. So if you're playing against the Widowmaker, you definitely don't want to be in an open angle where she has a free shot on you. And if you're playing against a Genji and you're playing a character that has medium to long range, you obviously don't want to take a close range fight with him. So make sure you always check the leaderboard and see what characters other people are playing so you can determine what distance you should be taking your fights and what different angles you can take without being within a certain range of them. However, once again, another key part to off angling, knowing where people are positioned and going ahead and making a play on the other team is you cannot sit in one place for too long. So if you have a really good angle that you think you're able to put a lot of pressure on the other team and do a lot of damage, always keep in mind that mostly if the other team is understanding of Overwatch and the way the game plays, they're probably going to do something where they're all going to try to dive you, attack you, block your angle, come get you, do something to reduce your impact on the game. So it's important that you're always moving angles, you're always moving around, and you're not sitting in one place, because if you sit in one place for too long, it will end with you getting eliminated quite often, especially if you keep going back to the same place and the other team catches on to it. Another key part about being a DPS in Overwatch 2 is understanding when to engage and when to disengage. This can be a hard truth, especially with the expectation of playing a character where you're expected to get eliminations and do damage, but sometimes you just need to back up, get some heals, reposition, and then rejoin the fight rather than risking your life to potentially get a pick, but then losing a team fight because you get picked off first. Additionally, if your team is about to get team wiped, it's important to evaluate the situation and understand that if you can escape, and if not, then maybe it's better to take a death there so you don't get staggered from your team, and then you can all spawn in together and retake that next team fight as a full 5-stack. I do have 2 more key tips that I want to share with you all, but one more time, if you guys enjoy the content, please make sure you subscribe and drop a like on the video, and make sure you check out my streams as well. I stream every Monday, Wednesday, and then I usually do a third day that's kind of unplanned, but I talk about that in the Discord, which you can find in the description of this video as well. Now on to the last few tips and ways that I think you can get value from DPS. The first one is quit overcommitting to take fights or duels with people who have full cooldowns. And I'm not trying to point fingers, I'm not taking a side, but in the age where everybody complains about how supports are the best duelists in the game right now, a lot of you guys really like to forget the thing that they have abilities and kits that are very useful. So if you try to take a duel with them or a fight with them when they have all their available cooldowns, you're obviously not going to win, because in a lot of cases that gives them practically 2 lives. So you need to bait those out before you try to go for a kill on them and secure that elimination. Now there's multiple ways you can do this. You can do this at range at an off angle, distract them, bait out their cooldowns, make them use it, then move to another angle and have your team push them specifically. You could play a character like Sombra and hack someone and throw your virus at them and try to get an elimination so that they are unable to use their kit or their abilities, but you need to be quick. And the thing is it's important to call these items out to your teammates as well, point out when people don't have cooldowns available, and just play strategically and smart around the other team and with your team. Overwatch, as you get higher in the ranks, becomes a game of chess and not checkers, and a lot of people seem to forget that. It's not as simple as you think it is, as get eliminations and push the payload and you win. No, you have to use your ult strategically, you need to play together strategically, and you need to attack the other team strategically. Which, this being said, actually leads me into my last main tip. Speaking of ults, it is very important to ult track and understand who has ults and when people have them. I know it's very difficult to do, especially in the heat of the moment when you're playing the game, but when you play with friends or even online if people are using comms, make sure you call out, hey, on this kill cam I saw this person on the other team has ult. Being able to navigate the other team's ults and survive those gives you an upper hand, because that means that's a team fight where they potentially could have won with their ults, but you took away their chance of winning that, so that gives you an upper hand and likely you'll have a chance to win that team fight. So it just gives you statistically really a better chance of winning something if you know when something might be coming and give that call out to your teammates and be prepared for it. And then just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and throw in one last bonus tip. I'm sure a lot of you may know this, but you might not be exactly sure how to get better at it, but work on your mechanics. If you have bad aim, even though you have great positioning, you can still make a lot of impact, but at the end of the day, you got to hit shots and get eliminations, and if you don't do that, you're going to still struggle as DPS. So continue to work on your aim, use aim trainers They don't necessarily have to be external aim trainers, they can be in custom games. And additionally, keep playing the game. To get in those situations and make those decisions in game is the best way to get better at doing those decisions when they happen. So the more you see different things and the more you experience those different forms of fights in different angles, the better you are when they happen again and again. So keep practicing, keep getting better, and we'll talk to you all later. Thanks for stopping by.